can you please release us and we're going to bow. But they don't do that. So he says, go and get the strongest men in our army. He doesn't need the strongest men in the army. It's not necessary, because even the weakest man in the army can grab a man that's bound and throw him into the fire. But he wanted to get the strongest men because he wanted for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to understand in their mind that you better change your mind. Because if you don't change your mind, I'm going to throw you into the fire. But in the midst of all of that, these strong men come in. They grab them, getting ready to throw them in the fire. And as they're getting ready to throw them in the fire, the strong men begin to walk slower and slower. And then the strong men throw them in the fire, and the strong men fall themselves and they die. Can you imagine being in a situation where everybody around you is dying because of the problem that you're having? The same problem that you're in is killing everybody else. And now you're in the same problem. That sends you a message. It sends you a message that you're going to die. And the reason why I send you the message is because I want you to change your mind about who God is. So when these men begin to die and they get thrown into the fire, they're on the ground. And this is the place of their death. This is the ending of their life. And they're bound, and they're in the fire, and they're on the ground, and they're supposed to be dead. And this is what the devil does in our life, is that he binds us. He throws us, he has people throw us into situations that are so negative, and he has us on the ground in a bad place. And he wants our minds to get to a place where we begin to reverse our thinking and begin to think that God is not for us. Many times when people find themselves in the fire of trial, in the fire of trouble, in the fire of sickness and disease, when they're in the fire and they're on the ground and they're bound, that's when they say, God, you're not real. That's when they say, God, I don't believe in you anymore. That's when they say, God, I give up. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not have that mentality. When they were in the midst of the fire, they sought to have communion with the God of heaven, because there was one that was like the Son of Man that was in the fire with them. Have you ever been in the fire and had enough power to pray? They were in the midst of the fire, and they began to trust God and began to believe that God would deliver them. And God came into the midst of their fire, and he was standing in there with them, to the point that when Nebuchadnezzar looked into the fire, he said, didn't I put 3 men in there? They said, yes, you put 3 men, but it looks like there's a 4th man, and he looks like the Son of Man. And the reason why I think this story was told is because they stood up, and the enemy did everything that he could do to make them bow. But when they got to the place in their minds that they said that I will not bow, no matter what my situation was, that even when they were thrown down to die, God gave them the power to stand up again. Sometimes life gets so hard, gets so tough, so many bad things happen, you don't feel like standing up again. You don't feel like going on anymore. But God said that even though you stood the first time, and even though you went through all these trials to make you bow this time, I'm going to give you enough power to get back up again. Right in the middle of the trouble, right in the middle of the fire, right in the middle of all the evil that's going on, God's going to give us energy and power to get back up again.